All right, what is up, guys? Coach Joe here at the casting couch. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I'm just kidding, guys. With the legend, Matt Wenning, okay, here in Ohio. Got a really cool opportunity to train, kind of pick his brain a little bit.
When I was about 17, 18 years old, I came from old school coaching people that all they knew was linear periodization. All they knew was you want to get better at bench press. You want to get better at deadlift, you use a straight bar constantly. And what I started to realize by about 19 is that it got me to a 500-pound bench, but my elbows and my shoulders and my wrists, and I had a lot of like just nagging issues that a 19-year-old just shouldn't have. Now, obviously, all of us at 19 would have loved to have a 500-pound bench. I'm one of few guys that I knew of that's reached that level that quick, but my point is that I was paying for it. And unbeknownst to me, Powerlifting USA is out at the time, the old school magazine, and I see this guy, Louis Simmons, talking, and he's talking stuff in these articles I had no idea what he was talking about, like getting faster to get stronger, rotating exercises, reduction of mileage. And I was like, dude, these are like three, let's just focus on these for today. Those are three major pillars that I was not thinking about, right? Like fast forward, 15, 20 years later, I'm multiple world record holder in gear. So equipped lifting, for those of you who don't know that. And then I decided to be one of the first guys to go conjugate and switch raw, because there was this huge controversy that conjugate system didn't work raw. And in its traditional layout, the way we had done it at Westside, they were partially right. There's a lot of different variations that you need to be good in gear versus being good raw. One of them being all you have to rely on is your muscle tissue. You don't have to rely on like elastic gear to help you lift, which is a lot more technical. So I'm in my first raw bench press meet, and I hit 600, and I hit 600 pretty easy. So I train really hard and go to my first raw competition in 2013, and I squat 788. Not really knowing that my conditioning level was poor, I go for my big 6'6" bench. And in the equipment, you could hide behind some of that because the amount of catapult you got out of that gear, even if you were a little deconditioned, they were giving you so much power out of that equipment that it didn't really matter. All you had to do was hold technical proficiency, and you had a great chance of getting those lifts. And it's not going to be primarily, like, my main drive was not to get stronger. I knew I was strong enough. I just couldn't show it after squatting close to world record. Keep in mind that 788 squat was 35, 40 pounds behind the all-time world record. It was 826 by Scott Weech. So, go to my first powerlifting meet, and I'm already the second highest squatter of all time in the raw division with no reps. So I'm driving home, and I figured conditioning is a problem, and this is when winning warm-ups start. So in 2012, early 2012, before I hit the 600-pound bench, I was speaking in Australia, and there was a lady there that was studying rugby and didn't know jack shit about lifting, but she was studying pre-fatigue before they were doing their lifts in the actual weight room for pro rugby, and she said that they were seeing all of these better potentiation points, muscles were activating better. So I'm thinking, man, I just talked to Stan Efforting and Flex Wheeler, one of the top bodybuilders to ever live, and he was a huge proponent of 20s and 25s. So I started talking to him, and he's like, well, when I did 20s and 25s, it felt like the muscle got better, but I never got central nervous system fatigue. I never got like neurally tired. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll keep the reps between 20 and 25. So I just set 25. Because in my thought process, it's too light. So 25 is what forced me to keep it light enough. So back then, I started off with like 25-pound dumbbells. So I'm doing 4 sets of 25. And keep in mind, this is bench only. So I first experiment with winning warm-ups only on the bench. I felt my triceps were weak or needed more work. I felt my lats needed more work, and my just pressing volume needed to go up. Fast forward 9 months later, I go to Raw Unity in Florida. I break the all-time world record in the squat, and then I bench 606 like an empty fucking bar, and I had the highest subtotal ever done under 300 pounds. So I put 90 pounds on my total. Now keep in mind, all the rest of the training looked exactly the same. All I implemented different was the warm-ups.
Volume, yeah.
And I was the same body weight.
Crazy.
In less than a year. So that's when I realized that my general physical capacity or work capacity wasn't high enough for me to show my strength. We were selecting movements that we hadn't touched in 6 to 8 months. For that is not only for performance gain, but also reduction of mileage. And the reduction of mileage is a huge proponent, because when you reduce mileage, you feel fresher, you can train harder. It's an injury, and the guy trained straight for 50 weeks with no injuries. Who did more work? But we always think about, well, I got to get everything out of today.
Gotta go hard.
You need to learn to get everything out of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and a year. Right? People tend to overestimate what they can get done in a session and underestimate what they can get done in 5 months. And that's the biggest problem with powerlifting and strongman and everything. They don't have a multi-year process. And one of the biggest things that was ever told to me when I was a kid was I was working out with a guy named Eddie Cohen, which we all know, 74 all-time world records, one of the best powerlifters to ever live. He comes to me at 20 years old. I hit my first 700-pound squat as a collegiate junior. And he says, dude, if you can hold on, you'll squat way over 800 in 10 years. No, he didn't tell me in 6 weeks. He didn't tell me in a year. He told me 10 fucking years. Now, for the average person that's in what we do, they're going to be like, man, I'm not going to wait 10 fucking years. That's way too long. For me, I enjoyed training.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the process. I didn't give a flying shit how long it took. But that's also why I'm almost 42 now, and I'm totally fresh. My knees don't hurt. My back don't hurt. Everything's straight. Because as soon as something came wonky or I didn't feel right, I just changed what I did and still created the volume around it like we were talking about. Yes, there are a handful of guys that can, like Milanichev, that don't have any other accessories or any other things, and they train exactly the same way all the time. But you would find that the majority of the people are not wired that way, and their bodies can't withstand that amount of volume or intensity in the exact same area. They need rotation. And where I first learned this was Charles Poliquin would talk about how most coaches want to find a high serotonin athlete, not a high dopamine athlete. And what that means is a high serotonin person, brain-wise, can withstand the exact same shit all the time and they never burn out from it. But high dopamine tend to have a better ability long-term to get more performance out of them, but they need more variation. So the problem is, so you're seeing this floor press, narrow grip with 5 chain. Because 5-6 weeks ago when we did a raw pause bench, we felt that the middle and the top needed more work. Using the same stimulus for too long no longer creates a desired result. Or you have to increase the volume, the intensity, things that of which you eventually run out of time or energy to do. So it automatically is telling you right there that you have to change the mode, which is the movement.
For sure.
And that's where it's a very simple biological law. If you're not changing what you're doing, you're going to have a huge problem down the road. You're going to hit sticking points. Then you're going to start creating mileage issues, and then you're going to have to either get smarter or retire, or just be content with the fact that's as strong as you're going to get. And it said that it's not the fact that we don't get stronger, we don't get smart enough to get stronger. You have to start learning, right? And I was always a sponge to learn, and I was fortunate enough to learn from people that made a lot of mistakes that we talked about, right? People ask me about Louis Simmons and Chuck Vogelpool and all these other guys, these legends that I train with. I learned more of what not to do than what to do, which was still valuable. Very valuable, because if you know what not to do, how many guys at my age would be that way? I'm still in great shape with no injuries. And that, to me, is how strong you get is only one small proponent of how good your program really is. It's how strong did you get plus how much mileage did you reduce? How much better do you feel as a person?
I like that.
How much more did you learn?